Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for another Word Balloon Live, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Henry Barajas here. Good to see you, Henry.
Good to see you too, John.
Absolutely, man. And Henry is here fresh from Top Cow, but now with a new position at Oni, where he's working with the direct market. And excited to talk to him about a couple projects. Among them, it's... Give me the title again, Henry, of your new
Helm
Greycastle.
Greycastle.
Helm Greycastle. I wanted to put a skull in there, but I knew that wasn't the case.
That's the point.
That's the point?
Trick people.
Sure. It's a good idea. You know, ironic timing, Henry. I played that Aquaman Alex Ross commercial to start the show. And, there's your classic superhero, blonde, white guy. You know, it's Atlantis. I mean, they've done things to change things, putting Jason Momoa in as Aquaman of late and things like that. And this is a great book because this is, a look at mythology and meso mythology. How would you say this, Henry?
Yeah. So the idea is, my elevator pitch is, what if Mordor had a south side?
Very good. Sure.
And I love Lord of the Rings and fantasy, and I started getting into D&D, and then I realized, there's no brown characters, like there are no but there's a lot of themes borrowed from Mesoamerican history, like a lot of the gods and kind of just some things that we don't even know that we take for granted. And while I was doing my first book, La Voz de Mayo, and the last time I was on your show was December 15th. 2019.
Oh, how things have changed.
A month after my book came out, La Voz de Mayo, when I was researching that book, I found out that the tribe that my mother is a part of, in her side of the family, was documented during the Spanish invasion. The Basquiaquis were documented by priests. And hey, Jessica. And it was... It led me into a rabbit hole of oh my God, I lived an hour away from the Mexican border and was never taught anything about my indigenous history in so many different ways.
Sure. Absolutely, man. No, and, I had Michael Jan Friedman on, who I love his sci-fi and fantasy work, his Star Trek work as well. And he has a new series of books about it's a what if the Aztec dynasty never ended. And I'll look at them in modern times, applying what we know about their civilization from the past. And yeah, that's a great, rich kind of Mayan and Aztec and that area of great mythology, great reality as well. I mean, these were very sophisticated civilizations that came up with mathematics and science of their own and
astrology.
There you go. Yeah,
cuisine. The calendar, just so much. And what we know about them is mainly through the bigot Mel Gibson, his movie, and
Yeah.
that's kind of how that's like how I have to relate this to, like, it's Apocalypto meets Lord of the Rings. It's very
Yeah.
like these two things clash together in a way that, like, what if the Spanish lost? What if the wheel was introduced into the Aztecs and their culture was appropriated in clothing and so many different ideas that it was impossible to do in 4 issues. But it was, it was a lot of fun to like do something that wasn't so personal, but it did end up becoming personal.
No, it looks great. It's a very cool story, and it's got all the mythological tropes that you hope for in a kind of sword and sandal fantasy, but again with the indigenous flavor of Hispanic mythology, which I think is terrific.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I did a lot of was research because something I heard on this show, Greg Rucka once said, "Your reader is always going to outsmart you." And I was prepared for that, but I wanted to be prepared for as much as I could be. And all my research was like through the lens of European scholars and white educators in the United States. And it was rare that you heard it through the indigenous account or it was through the Mexican lens. And I was on a panel for San Diego Comic Con, and we did a post panel about Aztec mythology and how it applies to entertainment. And like, how like it even splitters that like that much, because then we had a lot of Mexican people from Mexico saying, why can't we tell our stories, and why can't we be the ones doing these movies and animation and comics? And so it's one of those things where, like, yeah, there's a lot of frustration behind it because the people that should be telling these stories don't get to.
Henry, I mean, there are plenty of Hispanic television networks, and of course the film industry as well. So yeah, I mean, are they tapping this, especially given the success of Anglo mythology, and I mean that not only encompasses Marvel but obviously King Arthur and ancient mythology as well. I mean, are they? I mean, because again, it just seems each year the Spanish language media is growing up and getting more sophisticated. So are they doing anything in these realms?
There's a lot of video games happening in Mexico. I think from what I've seen, there is a really cool show that Tristan J. Tarwater, who was the writer of 2 of the RPGs in Helm Greycastle in the trade paperback that comes out October 13th at comic book stores, and the FOC is on this upcoming Monday. But yeah, there is this Malinche story that is like more that is very true to what actually happened, because there is the story of Malinche. There was a young woman that guided Hernan Cortez and his Spanish army to the heart of Azteca, and she betrayed her own people. And
Mhm.
so there's a story. There is a Spanish speaking like television series in Mexico that hasn't been brought to the United States yet. So you can try to watch it if you understand Spanish, but it's a very beautiful, amazing story. So I think there is opportunities, but I think with any country, the more advantageous projects are like things that are adopted from America. And probably there is the Amazon has a big presence and Netflix in Mexico. So I think eventually we'll start seeing more projects and more movies, especially after there was that one movie that won Best Picture in 2018, I think, Roma.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that caused like a tidal wave of things to happen, and then COVID hit. So I don't know. We
Yeah.
might be a year or two out before we see more, things that revolve around Azteca and that mythology.
As far as the archaeological digs, and I realize that you could recreate things with CG and the like, but I mean, how many of the real authentic locations are still exist, and would they be able to shoot around those? And
The problem with these sites is that because they're a huge source of Mexican tourism. That a lot of these places are crumbling because so many people
Sure.
walking up and down the stairs,
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or
Greek, I'm Greek and, we got a few thousand. Well, it depends. Actually, shame on me. I have no idea. But I know, Greek, the Parthenon has the same problem.
yeah,
And they've got to be very careful around it. So I can appreciate that. Sure.
and they're building like a lot of like resorts and other things in the area that are like kind of polluting the area, and I think it's really difficult for them to shoot around that, especially since there's so much money behind people just visiting. And the interesting thing is that within the last like 5 years, there have been more um, hidden temples and sites being found. To this day, a lot of like artifacts, and it's very interesting because that's what then that was what was really surprising to me about this story that I was writing. Like, the idea is this character named Helm Greycastle has to go and save the last dragon prince, and they didn't know this area existed. And there is like so many things in Mexico that we're still finding out to this day, that it's plausible a lot of this stuff is still hidden.
Wow.
And it was a lot of fun to like just see what kind of gods that they worshipped and tools, and trying to figure out what an Aztec bedroom would look like without
Sure.
any photo reference was really difficult.
Sure. That's great, man. Do you watch Ancient Aliens and shows like that on History
I
Channel?
started. Oh, definitely. I did start because I needed to like figure out what I did. I almost introduced aliens in this. There was a.
I was wondering. I was going to ask seriously because again, a show like Ancient Aliens, there is room to tie in science fiction with fantasy in this way.
Yeah, no, I really wanted to, and then my editor, Claire Napier, shout out to Claire Napier, I worked with on La Voz de Mayo. She was like, "Are you sure you want to open that box?" And then there's like, we're already asking the reader to like suspend their disbelief about Aztec lore, which it should have been. I should have done like Lord of the Rings meets like Odyssey or something, because there's a lot of educating you have to do in this space, because
Sure.
it's like myself, a Mexican American, a kid who is also the son of an indigenous woman. Her whole family, the native side of my family was suppressed, and that's always been the case throughout Native history. You didn't want anyone to know, because then you got treated worse. So that was like hidden from me. And then the Aztec, that all was not really discussed, other than don't be a Malinche, which is like a cheater or a traitor of your own people. That was something that I remembered. And a lot of the times when you would like, I'm from Tucson, Arizona, and a lot of like murals of like Aztec warrior man holding like a half naked woman in like a, on a like one of those temples, and that was always considered ghetto, and something that I shouldn't aspire to or appreciate.
Wow. Yeah. That sucks, man. I believe me. Again, this guy who has the ancient Greece in his history and everything. My aunt, who was basically like my surrogate mother. I know I've told this story before. I don't know if I've told you.
Please tell it.
When 300 came out, and I love 300's great. I mean, I love the comic book. I love the movie, and she was in her 80s, late 80s. And she's like, "Hey, I want to see that Greek movie that's out right now." And I'm like, she's like, it's got a number. I'm like, 300? And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is like kind of a comic book movie. And, well, it's about ancient Greece. I'm like, yes. I go, it's R-rated as well. I'm sure it's very violent. And I go, there might even be some nudity. She's like, well, I'm no prude. And I said, look, and her name was Anita. I'm like, look, Anita, I get it. I go, but she punches me in the gut. And she's like, hey, this is about Sparta. That's where we're from. This is about us. I want to see that movie. And I'm like, I'm going to take you to the movie. All right, fine. She loved it.
Oh,
that's
so
great
awesome.
Because they taught in Greek school the mythology of Sparta and the attack from the Persians and everything. And in the movie, there's Ganesh with the giant elephant head and everything, one of the Persian gods. And I'm like, I turned to her during the movie and I'm like, is this all right? She's like, this is fantastic. This is exactly what I remember from Greek school when I was a little kid. I remember all of this. I'm like,
Wow.
and her big, burly construction working son is like, what did you take my mother to? I'm like, she loved it. So honestly, no, and so I get it. And truly, and I mean, good Lord, you know, from Jason and the Argonauts to the Lost City of Atlantis and stuff. I mean, there's been tons of Greek mythology.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so, but no, I get that. I absolutely get that. Lady Jessica, I want to put up some of your observations. You're saying, speaking of Jason Momoa, the show on Apple TV uses a not bead reading type of language like Mayan Kipos, I'm assuming. Is that how you say it, Henry?
Yeah.
Okay, they're very cool. And she loved my 300 story, so that's awesome. Thank you.
I know Jessica back from when I used to do stand-up comedy. I got to do stand-up comedy at Phoenix Comic-Con, and I was like, I had a table there, and this was pre the Punisher cosplayer trying to kill the Green Ranger. I don't know if you remember that.
Vaguely, that's insane. But I mean, good Lord, just even the pitch right there, it's like, all right, I can see that sadly, but all right.
Yeah, she was very fun and really nice, and I miss seeing her around. So yeah,
that's awesome. I didn't know you did stand up. That's fantastic.
I did stand up for 4 years in Arizona. I did a lot of things. I did stand up comedy. I was a radio guy. I think that's how we connect a lot.
Indeed.
And
absolutely.
I was a journalist. I helped to launch the first jazz festival in Tucson. I lived a life.
I guess so, man. Absolutely. Good Lord. And congratulations on the new gig over at Oni. That's great. I mean, I know you're part of the. In fact, this is a Top Cow book, and you're part of the Top Cow family. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah, very cool. It was a very difficult, decision to have, and it was really a chance to dwindle my focus from doing like a lot of different things at Top Cow, which I'm very lucky that I got to learn and hone my craft in the business as a professional. And publishing professional, but also as a creator. They let me tell, 2 stories that I don't think I could have told anywhere else, and they really gave me a chance. And I just needed, I'm 32 now, John. You knew me back when I was 19, and I needed, I need a job where I could just do like a couple things. A lot, I'm doing a lot, and I get to talk to comic book stores, which I'm very. As comic book shops are the best places in the world, and also there's a lot of things that happen, especially with what's going on with printing and COVID and freights, a lot of shipping issues.
Sure.
So, it's an interesting time to be in comics as in the behind the scenes.
How long have you been doing this for Oni now?
It's going to be a month in a couple days.
Okay. What have you been doing in this? Yes. So tell me about the last 30 days.
I've been getting finally getting more introduced to Diamond, working with them, and also just figuring out ways to market some of their new books that are coming out. One of their biggest sellers this year was Jonna and the Impossible Monsters by Chris and Laura Samney. A huge hit in the direct market, and also learning a lot about the book market, which there's there's Chef's Kiss that's coming out. There's also just a lot of direct like graphic novel stuff going through Simon and Schuster, and learning that kind of route of that train of thought in publishing, which isn't really a thing at Image, but kind of with a couple of creators like Ed Brubaker. And you see like those books really cater to that end. So learning that those tricks, and just working with Alex Segura, who you've had on before,
sure.
And Margot Wood, and James Lucas Jones. Also known him for a long time, and being able to work with him is also is an honor.
That's awesome, man. Are you guys all working remotely, or are you going into work?
Yeah, everyone's remotely. There is a Portland office. I don't know if I will ever move there. I'm in Los Angeles, which I love. LA, big Dodgers fan and love the Clippers. So I don't really want to leave unless it's like mandatory.
I understand. Portland's fun. I mean, I can attest to that, and I know LA is fun as well. What part of LA are you in?
I'm like 5 minutes away from Universal Studios.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Excellent.
just like how everyone says there's the hill and the valley. Like I'm just
Yeah,
right there on the tip where I can like pretend I'm in both areas.
that's cool. That's great. I was in Culver City last time I was in LA, and that was its own experience and everything. But no, I've been to Universal City in that area and stuff, so that's awesome. Beautiful views.
Yeah.
You get those great views and everything of the LA at night. I mean, it's
Oh,
all lit
yeah.
up. It's gorgeous. Absolutely,
It's really
man.
beautiful. Unless there's a lot of smog or fires.
Sadly, true on both. Absolutely. Are you near other comic professionals in your
Oh
area?
yeah, I'm near so many people. I know. I used to see Sam Humphreys at the coffee shop all the time. I'm next to Dennis. I see Dennis Culver all the time. There used to be a lot of DC editors out here. Some of them have moved. Who else do I see all the time? Oh man,
I like both of those names. I like
yeah,
Dennis and I like Sam. Absolutely.
yeah. I like to say that LA is more of a comic city than Portland, but there are a lot of people in Portland, and I
Oh
wouldn't
yeah.
be short of friends if I did move there.
Dude, believe me, I've had the same thought, and I'm like, well, if I were ever to move, if I could swing Portland would be nice because, God, I saw that firsthand when I was there in 2019 for Rose City, and good Lord, I mean, no, I've got a couple dozen friends that are there in Portland and stuff. So no, it would be a nice transition to see everybody. Although I say that now, and I mean, just like living in Chicago, and I've got dozens of Chicago friends in comics,
That's what
and
I was about to say. There's a lot of Chicago people.
oh yeah. Oh yeah, we stay in touch and everything, and even prior to COVID, a lot of them now are having kids, so it's that much harder for everyone to get together. I think of the Sealeys and people like
Yeah.
that. So no, and Ryan Brown has babies and stuff.
Oh
So
wow,
yeah,
it's just gonna be us, John. We're just gonna be
I
these
know,
like
man.
fatherless uncles to the comic book industry.
That's all right. I don't mind. It's all right. I like my life. I like my single life. It's fun. I get to do fun things. Like talk to you, absolutely.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Oh, I'm gonna be in Rose City. Are you going?
Oh, that's great, man. No, my next show is Baltimore, and I will not. And then really, I feel bad saying this because really, Randy and Mark have been incredibly kind, and I was one of the judges for the Ringos to set up the nominees and everything, and they've been very kind, and they've extended the full invitation to come out there. And I absolutely want to do it, but I will not deny that I'm watching the Delta numbers as everyone is. And I mean, as much as I'm fully vaccinated and stuff, I'm still nervous. And
Oh, me too.
God,
Definitely.
I went to Terrificon in Connecticut, had a great time, but had some sort of bug. Thankfully, not COVID, but it really did kind of screw the weekend for me a bit, and it made me extremely cautious while I was there. And I still did
Right.
panels and had a great time and saw everybody that I needed to see and wanted to see, but yeah, man, it was still kind of frustrating and a little nervous.
Oh yeah.
So
I feel very
yeah.
lucky that I got to see you in 2019 at C2E2, and you had even came out when your foot was all messed up.
Oh yeah, I had to. Thank you, man. But no, I had to. I mean, good Lord, I mean, it made me comfortable during COVID because I'm like, well, I just went through a year of this, so it was fine. But yeah, man, no, I really begged my doctors to let me come out for C2E2, and they're like, all right, only after hours and only for a couple hours, and I'm like, fine, deal. So it was great. I took full advantage of that, and I saw everybody. So good. I'm glad we did see each other. Then that's true. Very funny. So yeah, man, Helm Castle. Do you? I mean, obviously the graphic novel is just coming out now. Is it out next week or is it already out?
So the fourth issue is coming out this upcoming, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday. And the cover artist, I was really, you know how you meet people before they get big, and I know you don't have this problem, but I met Bjorn, who's been doing the Spawn covers lately. He did some Top Cow fan art, and I was like, I was telling everyone, Top Cow, we need to like nail this guy down. We need to like we need to hire him to do something. And he ended up getting hired by Todd to do Spawn covers, which, Todd's Spawn's like the hottest selling comic outside
Sure.
of Batman. So he got an agent, and he's like, has a set rate. And for me, he was like, Henry, I'll do this for you, but you got to send me comp copies. And I was like, done.
Yeah, jeez.
So he did this amazing issue for this cover for the fourth issue, which Matt Hawkins did he has his own like major Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And I also want to preference this, that this has nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons. Wizard of the Coast attorneys, if you're listening, this is a 5e compatible homebrew game, technically. All these games are not D&D sanctioned, but there is that wiggle room that you can make games with a certain creative license. So Matt Hawkins did this whole campaign, and he took some parts of it and made like a Frankenstein version of it. So 4 issues, every issue came with its own D&D campaign.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Absolutely, go on.
Yeah, so I got Tristan J. Tarwater, who wrote stuff for Rolled and Told when Lion Forge was publishing that book, and they did an incredible job because they were also going to college to learn about Mesoamerican history. So it's very authentic, and it's even putting things in perspective that like we wanted to give the reader and the gamer a sense of the world and give you an enhanced kind of experience. If you do play the game, you do get into some areas that you don't see in the comic. And Helm Greycastle's in the second game, written by Jeffrey Golden, and the art for the stories that are in, or the games that are in the trade paperback, are done by Jen Bond. I don't know if you're familiar with her. But yeah, so
done on the cover, absolutely, or in the forward.
Yeah, she's an amazing artist, really funny person, and it was her first Image credit, which I was very lucky, to offer that, because I've known her for so. We both started off at the Beat. She went off to Fantagraphics, and it's really cool to grow up with some people like her. And so like the idea for the comics is each comic has a map. So I'm encouraging people to tear out the interior pages to put their miniatures on the map and play the game, but also buy a second copy so you can be able to read it.
Oh boy, absolutely, yes, indeed.
So that's why there's an A and B cover. There's a logical reason. I'm not trying to, piss off
flood the market.
Yeah, exactly. There is like a thought behind this, but I'm also the kind of guy who loved like cutting out things and mailing stuff, and having the comic be a little bit interactive and not like live in your short box. And I love folding my comics with my baseball cards and my bubble gum and going down to Dr. Pepper's liquor store and getting Zimas for grandma. That's
Zimas. Grandma drinks Zima.
We used to go down to Johnny's Market and get Nana a 6-pack of Zimas.
Sure. Absolutely, man. That's awesome. Zima. Fantastic. Good 90s reference. That's like me in college drinking Bartles and James, man. That's fantastic. Jesus. Julio, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, you weren't a Mad Dog drinker?
No, I was not. I was not a Mad Dog drinker. Julio Anta, if I hadn't said it already, I love the covers on Helm Greycastle, Henry. Everyone's killing it on those. Indeed. Very cool.
Julio pitched a story to Top Cow that they didn't know if they wanted to take the story because La Voz de Mayo hadn't came out yet, but Elena Salcedo, the backbone of Top Cow, she sent his pitch to Image for a book called Home that's out. That's a really amazing story about a kid who gets caught at the border at the same time his superpowers are developing. So he breaks out of like the cages, and it's an incredible idea, which pisses me off because I was born an hour away from the border and he's Cuban, and I'm like, I should have came up with this, but I'm glad he's telling this story, and it's an amazing, amazing book coming out through Image. Definitely people should check that out.
Oh, that's great, man. Well, shout out to currently one of my favorite fighters, Ugas, the welterweight that beat Manny Pacquiao. No disrespect to my Filipino friends, but
you're not a
I don't know, man.
Pacquiao fan, huh?
No, actually, I love Manny Pacquiao. He's a tremendous fighter. But I got to tell you, Henry, when I saw that matchup, my spider sense went off, and I'm like, this is going to be an upset because Ugas is built like Tommy Hearns used to be in terms of long and thin, and he had fast hands, a good counter puncher, and is 8 years younger. And while Manny didn't have any fights during 2020, Ugas had 3.
Oh wow!
And his only loss in his last 12 fights was against this guy Sean Porter, and I saw the fight live and I rewatched it before the Pacquiao fight, and they really jobbed Ugas on the decision. He should have won, and I'm just like, and I talked to my boxing writer brethren, including the great Nigel Collins, of formerly editor-in-chief of Ring Magazine, and I'm like, am I nuts? This looks like an upset. And he said, I can't disagree with anything you said. It's still Manny Pacquiao, and that's why I'm picking Manny. And I'm like, yeah, but again, he's been on ice for 2 years. He hadn't fought since 2019.
8 years older.
And yeah, he's 42. He's 42 years old.
This is it. I mean,
I loved the great Sugar Ray Robinson, but everybody gets old. It's like, it's that great line in Creed when Stallone tells Michael Jordan and stuff, and he says, you know, you beat my dad. He goes, I didn't beat your father. Time beat your father. And we'll see. I mean, Manny wants a rematch. You never know. He might pull an Ali, whereas as much as Ali lost that first fight to Leon Spinks, got his shit together and won the rematch and convincingly won the rematch and everything. But I just think Ugas is a disciplined fighter. And the Cuban boxing is amazing, and he came up through the amateur ranks, and they have a great amateur program in Cuba. So there you go. This
is like, you know, growing up in a Mexican household. My uncle was a boxer. He lost more fights than he won, and it was a Chavez household. And watching watching those last matches of him just trying to beat De La Hoya were really heartbreaking. So,
oh God, yeah. Even before that, when he fought, I was in Vegas when he fought Frankie Randall, the surgeon, and lost to Frankie Randall and everything. No, you're right. But again, I mean, the guy, just like Pacquiao, Chavez's legacy was already insured even by the time he fought De La Hoya.
Definitely.
So I can appreciate that. Julio wants to know what I thought of Jake Paul and the rest of the YouTube boxers. I hate Henry. I'm so with you. In fact, my buddy Mike Choi. I don't know how well you know Mike.
I know of him, but we're not tight.
No worries.
We're not like friends or anything.
No, that's cool. Mike's a massive fight fan too.
Oh, really?
I always talk boxing with Mike, and Mike and I were talking today, and he said the same thing. What do you think? I hate it because it trivializes a real sport. And I have I mean, you know, hey, I was a kid when Ali fought Antonio Aoki, the Japanese wrestler. Yeah. And and Ali used to jump in the ring at wrestling matches and challenge Gorilla Monsoon and Andre the Giant and yell and stuff.
I feel like that was different. That was never going to happen. It was Ali just like, you know, being a fan.
Right, and clowning around. Yeah. But Jake Paul wants to be taken seriously, and Logan Paul, and it's like, I'm sorry, just because you're a YouTuber and you're a celebrity, and again, the people that they're fighting, they're not fighting real guys. I mean, well, you know, Logan fought Mayweather. I'm sorry, I refuse to believe that was a legit fight because of the way that Mayweather was basically holding Logan up when Logan ran out of gas. Jake almost ran out of gas in his 8-rounder yesterday.
Oh, did he? I didn't watch. I didn't watch it. I couldn't bring myself. Did he win?
Yeah, he won. He won a split decision, and he deserved it. I mean, the split decision was kind of ridiculous. But again, he's fighting an MMA guy, and he's a striker, but that's not the same as boxing. Look at Conor McGregor and Mayweather. These are bullshit fights. I like real fights. I like real fighters, and I don't think these guys are real fighters. So. Lady Jessica says her 4-year-old is more mature. Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. So, I mean, again, do what you want. People can watch it if they want to. You're not sucking me into this crap. And I only watch.
It was a money grab for for that last one. I'm sure this time around. It's not.
Well, and again, I mean,
Showtime, me, I just couldn't respect it.
There's an audience for it. I mean, that's why Showtime made it a pay-per-view and everything. But it really frustrates me. So Julio appreciates what I'm saying. Thank you. And Jessica, you're right. It's pro wrestling style drama. It's theatrics Well, right, and it's. I mean, again, it's. She says without the theater of wrestling, it's theatrics. Yeah, it's just it's all hype, and that's fine. But I don't have time for hype. I like real sports.
Are you an AEW fan?
Yeah,
Are you
well,
watching
I am in principle. I mean, I
Right.
have nothing against wrestling. Wrestling is what it is, and that's fine, and it's fun. And there's, I mean, and it's real athletics and stuff, and people do get hurt. And
Yeah.
but no, I appreciate a good, fun promotion. When there's a betting line on Logan Paul and Jake Paul, it's like, man, a fool and his money. Good Lord, good luck. And also, I can't believe that the FTC isn't like going to DraftKings and some of these online betting things that have betting lines, and it's like, this isn't a real fight. What are you doing? It's an It's really a glorified exhibition.
Yeah, it's sparring. They're just sparring.
Yeah. Well, and the worst was like, DraftKings had a line on not only the Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather fight, but also Tyson and Roy Jones, and it's like, there's no decision. What are people betting on? I'm like, these guys have already made agreements that they're not going to try to kill each other. And I mean, even as much as I think Mike Tyson showed, hey, if you want to get in the ring with him, he'll be happy to hit you. And I think Roy Jones was really shocked at how hard Mike still hits.
Yeah, I mean,
but
it's funny how Mike has become this like whisperer of knowledge. Have you seen like his videos and his podcasts and stuff?
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, I went all directions with Mike. First, loving him as a kid, watching him as he was a contender moving up. Then, dealing with the realities of the rape conviction and everything. Then biting Holyfield was just, to me, like the worst. And it took a long time.
Unforgivable.
Really, man. No, you're right. It took a long time for me to forgive him. But I do think in his 50s now, he's finally maturing. And man, he's had some personal tragedies. Losing his kid was just tragic. I don't know.
I got to meet him at Comic-Con when he had the cartoon. And this was in 2015. I asked him, Mike, who would you want to get in the ring with, Hillary or Trump? He's like, man, I don't want to fight nobody.
He's mellowing out, man. I was at one of he and Razor Ruddock for the rematch.
Oh, wow.
I was at their press conference, and I got to ask him a question. And back then, everyone still wanted the rematch with Buster Douglas, and I was the one that asked the question.
You did?
Oh, yeah. And he's like, Buster Douglas is a dog. I have no respect for him. And it was great because Jay, I want to say his name was Jay Shevsky. The guy who was in charge of Showtime at the time was on the dais as well. And he said, well, Mike, we polled our audience, and right now Buster Douglas is still the main guy that everybody wants to see fight. And it was hilarious because, King was there, and,
only in America.
Yeah, well, we better get paid if it's going to be that fight again. That's all I know, and everything. And no, I love Don. Don was a trip. Don was very cool. Don let me imitate him, and he would laugh along. He had the deadest, like, gangster eyes I've ever seen, and truly, if you looked him in the eye, scary as shit. I'm telling you.
Wow,
man,
I can't believe you got to meet him.
Oh yeah, no, again, sports radio, doing sports radio as long as I did,
especially in Chicago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and absolutely. So, yeah, major city. So, no, everybody came through, and George Foreman. The only all-time great heavyweight I never met was Joe Frazier.
Oh.
But everybody else, Larry,
you got
George,
to meet
Ali.
Muhammad. Ali?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, it was amazing. 30 years ago. It was one of the greatest nights of my life. And he was great because the poor man, I mean, obviously he had his Parkinson's syndrome, so he stammered, but his mind was fine. And I asked him about Holyfield and Foreman before it happened.
Oh, wow.
And he gave a very cogent analysis of, I know I'm an old man. I know I'm talking about another old man, but I'm telling you, George is a different fighter. He takes his time. He looks for his openings. He goes, this is not the guy that I fought in the 70s. And it was so great. And we talked for like 5 minutes back and forth. And I have a little micro cassette with me, which I can't find. It drives me nuts.
Oh.
And I'm like, champ, would you just say, hi, John, it's Muhammad Ali? No one's going to believe that it's us talking and stuff. And he's like, hello, John, this is Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all time. What's happening, baby? And I laughed, and he gave me a big smile, and he grabbed my shoulder, and he's like, and I'm like, Jesus, man, this is awesome. So yeah, I was still 30 years later, one of the greatest encounters ever.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's so beautiful. He
George
lived in Phoenix. And I wish I could have found a way to meet him, but
who lived in Phoenix?
Muhammad Ali.
Did he? When?
Yeah.
I had
At
no
the end of
idea.
his life. Yeah.
Wow. Because when I saw him, he was still in Michigan, in Berrien Springs, which was like right by South Bend, Indiana, and there was an ESPN card from South Bend, and I was talking to the local promoter, and he's like, "Ali's coming." I'm like, "Yeah, right." And he goes, "No, he lives like 40 minutes away." He goes, "Really? I swear he's coming." And he goes, "I'll get you 5 minutes with him," because I was writing for Boxing Illustrated.
Oh, wow.
The guy walked
I'm sure
in,
he
was
had a
like,
house or something. And Arizona is a place
"That's
where a lot
terrific."
of people retire and the climate is better
Sure.
on the bones.
I had no idea though that he was there at the end. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, very
Yeah.
cool. Jeez. All right, that was a good boxing interlude. I enjoyed all of that.
I love boxing. And I just, anytime I get a chance to talk about that in baseball, and a lot of people in comics like sports, as you know, John.
Well, that's true. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to say, would you ever want to do, because every now and then there are great bios of boxers that people make into comics and stuff. I know there was, the co-creator, Trevor Von Eaton, did a great boxing comic in the last 10 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you read Slots by Dan Panosian?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, great comic.
Absolutely.
I'd love to do.
I want to talk to. I'll be talking to Dan this month.
Cool! I went to his house.
Principal.
You should ask him.
Oh, that's great.
He has an incredible place.
Oh, I bet. That's awesome. But no, I did have a guy on at the beginning of the year that is making a great documentary about the Olympic Auditorium in LA.
Oh,
and
wow.
there were a lot of great Hispanic fighters that came through there, going back to the 40s and 50s. A great subject, Henry, a great Mexican fighter, Art Aragon.
I'm not familiar.
Oh man, he was a great contender, never a champion, but was definitely an LA celebrity, and he did a lot with
wow,
the Hollywood scene. They would all come to the Olympics.
Oh, there's a picture with him and Marilyn Monroe. Wow.
I was gonna say absolutely, yes.
Dang.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a great thank you for that. No, I'd love to, if I were to do like a reality, like a bio thing, I would like to talk to De La Hoya, because he's still with it and he's gone through.
He's
like
fighting soon. He's
Is
back.
he?
Yeah, he's doing one of these idiot. I'm 50. I'm gonna fight exhibitions.
No.
But it's I got to interview our Oscar a few times, and I'm really glad I did. And I like Oscar, but I do remember he had a fight against another Mexican fighter, Yori Boy Campos.
Oh, Yori Boy, yeah.
And it was, Yori Boy was so shot by the time he fought De La Hoya. And it was a tune-up for another bigger pay-per-view. I can't remember which bigger pay-per-view it was. And I had him on the phone in an interview. And I'm like, Oscar, why is this a pay-per-view? I'm like, you've already got your next fight lined up. We all know this is a tune-up. And no one begrudges you having a tune-up before a big fight. But, shouldn't this at least be on regular HBO? Oh, no, I think it's going to be very competitive. I'm like, if you thought it was competitive, you wouldn't already have your next fight lined up.
That's true. I think he came in at a time where he was young and everyone was on their way out.
Oh, absolutely. No, he had great timing, no question. And the 92 Olympics and everything.
Yeah, definitely.
30 years ago. Jesus Christ. Henry, you were a baby.
I was barely born.
Yeah,
that's
man.
True. No.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So back to comics. You and I appreciate the boxing interlude. You know that. So thank you.
Oh,
yeah. You also just recently you did an adventure story, didn't you?
I did. It's funny. My friend Jan Jones. Are you friends or no?
Of course.
Jan? Yeah.
I love Jan.
Jan threw my name in a hat to do this comic for Somos Healthcare. And
for what? Say it again.
Somos, SOMOS. They're a healthcare company in New York that specializes in helping the more at-risk communities like the Latinx, Latino, Black communities. And the comic was aimed to encourage kids to get their COVID shot.
That's great.
Yeah. I wanted to bring in Brainchild. Are you familiar with that character?
I'm not familiar with
So like Avengers number 39, there was this impossibly smart kid who was like
from the original run?
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
And he had this ridiculous intellect and wanted to I guess take over the world. And I wanted to bring him in as an old man, as a Alex Jones type character who was spewing disinformation. And the Avengers had to stop him, and they were like, can we do something not that? That was but I wanted, I love doing the old cuts. And
So, who was in your lineup?
Well, there is, they asked to put in Captain America, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Hulk, Black Widow, and Iron Man.
Cool.
And at the time, I was watching the MODOK show on Hulu.
Yeah, Patton Oswalt show. Sure.
Yeah, I think he did what, like, I don't know, what Jack Nicholson did for the Joker. I think, like, made this character cool, and we will see MODOK in stuff
because of the show.
Yes.
Interesting. I got to be honest, Henry. I've got Hulu and I haven't watched it yet.
You need.
I really have to watch it.
There is so much deep cuts in that show.
Cool.
You would appreciate it as a huge.
Yeah, well, as a huge.
Yeah. And Eddie Pepitone is in it.
Oh, I love Eddie Pepitone. I think he's hilarious. I love when he shows up on Dana Gould's podcast.
Yes, he is hilarious.
Who does he play?
You have to watch it, John.
All right, fair enough. No,
there's an episode where where MODOK gets kicked out of the major, like he's no longer a top tier villain, and he has to go down with all these crappy villains.
Sure.
And Eddie Pepitone plays a really terrible villain.
Oh, I can't wait. That's awesome. That's great. That's like what Spencer and Lieber did with Superior Foes of Spider-Man, and and of course even the Harley Quinn cartoon, which I adored.
Yeah, it's really good. Show. Yeah, definitely really funny. And so cool. I was like, if anybody is going to be an adversary in my adventures, it's going to be MODOK, Patton Oswalt MODOK. So and then just writing. Every time I go to New York Comic Con, I spend time with a friend in Bushwick, and it's a huge Puerto Rican neighborhood. A lot of Latinx people, and he told me about this Maria Hernandez Park. There was this woman that used to do a lot of like charity events and a lot of just like outreach to the community, and she ended up getting shot in her apartment by a stray bullet. Like, it didn't seem like a real hit or anything, and so they named the park after her. And I just wrote, like this woman, Maria Hernandez Park, and they ended up, I don't know if they did this because of the comic or not, but they ended up doing a pop-up vaccination site at that park.
Oh, that's great.
And in Manhattan, and in I think in Queens. And I hope that was why they did that, or maybe they already planned. But
did they hand out the comic?
So you had to get the vaccination and get the comic. There was 20,000 copies printed.
That's smart.
So you are basically a kid in that park, like you are in the comic, getting the vaccination.
That's terrific. I love those kind of, and I forget what they call them, special project comics and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure people will say this doesn't count as like a Marvel credit, but it was on, Times Square, like on the big signs.
Why did you take photos of?
I didn't get to go. They didn't tell me. I would have been there in a heartbeat. But the mayor's handler, he sent me a message. He used to be a Marvel editor, and he was like, "Hey, I don't know how we've been following each other, but here's pictures of the mayor, and he loves the comic."
Oh, that's terrific. That's excellent, man. Very, very cool. No, that's terrific. Hey, I know B. Claymore did his share of specialty comics and stuff, and I know other Word Balloon guests have in the past.
Oh yeah.
So no, that's great. That's a great way to cut your teeth with the big two. My favorite special project like that was one of Marty Pasco's books, where some rich guy for his kid's bar mitzvah commissioned a Superman comic for his son and either the kid's best friend or his brother, and it was this like legit Superman story that Marty wrote and Kurt Swan drew it, and it was only available through the bar mitzvah and everything.
Oh, cool.
And it's so funny because there are still copies if you look around eBay.
Oh, really?
You can still find them and stuff, and they're kind of this awesome little rare comic and stuff that Marty and Kurt Swan did.
I do have to a shout out to Craig. I'm gonna butcher his last name, Russo, or I forget. I don't know how to say it. He did the art for for the book.
For the Avengers book.
Yeah, and we met on a Twitter thread that's been going on for years, where people take pictures of what they're drinking, a beer, and we ended up tabling next to each other when I was working for Matt Hawkins, and yeah, it's funny how things like that work, where like you end up working with someone so randomly, but he did a great job.
That's awesome, man. That's terrific. Are you going to do more with your book about your family and stuff? Your and I'm going to
Yeah,
murder
La
the
Voz de
title.
Mayo.
Yeah, La Voz
Yeah,
de
I
Mayo.
would like to do a book on more indigenous people. Like that would be great. I would like to do a book on Cesar Chavez. That would
That would
be
be terrific.
that would
Sure.
be awesome.
Oh my God. Absolutely. Sala wants to hear about any upcoming projects you've got and everything.
Yes, I would like to do more Helm Greycastle, but that depends on sales. That's kind of the nature of the it's show business. How many people can you bring to the event? So I would love to do more Helm. That is definitely why I'm blitzing and doing so much promotion. You tell your comic book shop you want a copy of the graphic novel. Tell your library, bookstore. That will just make it an easier, to do more.
I think there's a great need for more mythology regarding Mexican heritage and Latinx, background and stuff. And again, the art is terrific. I think it absolutely fits in with the fantasy realm, but does educate us in terms of Aztec and Mexican mythology and everything. So I think,
shout out to Ramat Handoko and Brian Valenza. Brian has been coloring Rob Liefeld, Mark Silvestri. He's been doing such an amazing job. He's the one who made this happen, getting me connected with Ramat Handoko. And Ramat, his art is all just pencils. And Brian just goes over and it does his thing.
Wow.
And Gabrielle Downey, she was the letter artist who did the Stepan Sajik Harleen book. She's a Latinx artist that lives in LA. So
cool. I love Stepan's art as well. Good Lord.
Yeah, he's amazing. He did an issue. He did a cover B for #2. I'm very lucky that.
Oh, that's great, man. That's cool. He's I met him. God, I met him like 10 years ago in New York, and I've yet to have him on the show. Shame on me. But he really is one of like my favorite Top Cow professionals and everything.
You should have him on the show. He's very funny. He's very funny. Just a real riot. He's like, I don't know if he's always on like 5 cans of Red Bull or something. He did that cover in like probably an hour. Like, I don't know how he does it all, but I've been selling his book for 5 years on the road. And it's an honor that he did that. Very, very, very glad.
That's awesome, man. Fantastic. Well, geez, man, good luck on the publicity tour for this.
Thank you.
Are you, again, as we're nervous about shows and stuff like that, what are you doing anything with libraries or shops where you're doing anything remotely and promoting the book as far as, reader clubs and stuff?
Yeah, so I'm currently working with LA Public Library. Going to try to work with the Tucson Library from my hometown.
Sure.
Collector's Paradise, Ed Greenberg, he did a amazing, basically, if you pre-order the book, I sign copies and then they send it to you when it's all done.
Great.
And then we're doing the trade paperbacks, so go to Collector's Paradise. And if you want a signed copy, that's the best way to get it at this moment. So doing a lot. Basically, there are so many comic book shops. I would just show up and sign whatever they have, and they would end up doubling their numbers because they would sell them because the book was signed. I mean, that is a weird, old school trick that really works.
I believe it, man. No, definitely. And again, especially a book like this, where there are so few Latinx mythology books and stuff. Hopefully, this is the start of a trend that will continue to grow. And I think really having the role-playing game component to it is really, really smart and fun.
We did over 20,000 sales on the first issue.
Wow.
That was with David Lapham art, like Becky Cloonan, Tony Parker, Ramat. We had Things from Another World cover. So it sold, the first issue sold really well. and I'm very proud of that number.
Sure.
And it's just a matter. I think it's funny. Like, I was thinking about this. Like, people do Marvel and DC work, and then go to Image, and I'm doing it the opposite. I'm going from Image to these places, and it's not like it's weird to take an audience with you to companies that they would never want to even consider, or are probably tired of, or probably haven't been reading as much, So my career is a weird beast.
Who of the big two? I don't want you to spoil any story ideas, but obviously there's a healthy group of Latinx characters at both DC and Marvel. I mean, do you want to do that? I mean, because also there is the feeling. I mean, I remember. Now I'm blanking on his name. Wonderful black writer who was doing Deathstroke for DC.
Christopher Priest.
Yeah, Chris Priest. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, hey, man, I don't need to do black characters. I want to do everybody. And I totally appreciate that, because I'm a big anti stay in your lane. And especially, guys get that a lot when they write and draw good women books and stuff. And it's like, no, man, you're a creative. You should be able to do anything. So I don't know if there are, because obviously reading the forward too to Greycastle, there is that feeling of, God, I wish there were more stories about us. So yeah, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, that was Helm Greycastle was like that was the point.
Sure.
Of doing La Voz de Mayo, doing a book specifically about Mexican American, Native American history, and was like, oh, I can do other things. I wanted to flex. And there was like a Marvel anthology of Latinx characters that's coming out, and I was I was a little cheesed I wasn't invited to the dance, but you a lot of my friends are on it, so I'm glad they're doing. Alex Segura, there are so many people doing that book, so I'm glad it's happening.
Sure.
I definitely would love to help do something like that at DC. I know that there is a possibility, but it just needs to really oil that engine. But yeah, I would love to do a Beetle comic that will annex character, and I would love to bring. It bums me out that DC doesn't own Apache Chief. I'd love to do an Narumchuk comic.
Absolutely, man.
But
who was Grant's Indian? Pardon me.
He had the native Batman, right?
Oh no, I was even thinking of Man of Bats. I was thinking of from Justice League. Maybe it wasn't his character, but wasn't there a Native American in Justice League when he was writing it?
Probably, yeah. I mean, there's so few. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. Shame on me. I can't think of his name right now.
Hey, same. He's been out. That has to be like 15.
But you're right.
Old.
You're right about. Good Lord. Again, you can't help but grow up with those Saturday morning cartoons and not love Apache Chief. Good Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, so, no, he's a Hanna-Barbera characters. That's why.
But they're all this. But now they're all. That's interesting because they're all under the same umbrella now.
It's like getting Harry Potter to be in the Justice League. It would be like talking to somebody in some different department that probably has no interest in.
Yeah, that's that's weird though, because and maybe that was just an area they didn't want to go into when DC and Hanna-Barbera were doing those crossovers. That we didn't get like a Super Friends Justice League real mashup to see Black Vulcan and Apache Chief and El Dorado. I remember there's a Latinx character. Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, that book was done with little to no conversations about actually having to get those characters, which is an interesting thing. But yeah, no, definitely room to make more characters, and give them more IP that I will never own. Love to do that. It's funny, like doing that Marvel comic where I did a lot of work and Craig did a lot of work, and there's so many people on the news like saying this is the comic I made, and I was like, you didn't make that, but you probably made it happen, and God bless you, and I'm glad it's out there. But it was definitely I've been thinking about Jack Kirby a lot. Belated happy birthday to Jack Kirby.
Absolutely. 104.
104. Yes, and you're like, oh, so this is what it feels like.
So wait a minute, they were taking credit for your Avengers book?
Well, there was some people on TV that were just like, yeah, that they made this happen, and I never talked to them, but I don't think they didn't say I wrote this, but they're definitely like, this is my project, and I'm glad whoever did it and stuff. And like you get one line in Hollywood Reporter written by, which is fine.
I've had that.
I needed that experience to be like, this isn't my thing. This is a sandbox I get to play in.
That's true. I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, Henry, with things like Helm Castle, it's only going to point towards more great projects for you in the future. So all the best and congratulations on this. I think it's a really cool, fun book. And when does the graphic novel come out?
Comic book stores get it April 13th, and bookshops get it on they get it on October 13th, and then bookshops get it on October 19th. I'll be at Thought Bubble Festival in Harrogate. That's my next show.
Wow, the UK or
the UK? Yeah,
terrific.
Flying to Dublin.
Wow,
and flying to Leeds. Yeah, really excited to do one show.
Give my best to all of our European friends who will be there. That'll be cool.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And so the issue 4 comes out when?
It comes out this upcoming not this Wednesday, but
the 9th or the 10th
or the 8th. September 8th.
Yeah, that's right. It'd be the 8th, of course.
And that
cool.
and Matt Hawkins' game is only in that issue. You will not be able to get that in the trade paperback. So
wow. Okay, there you go. Double incentive to pick up issue 4.
Yeah, get 2 copies because you're gonna want the maps that are in that book.
That's great, man. Very, very cool. Best to Matt if you talk to him.
Oh, definitely. Thank you.
Absolutely, and everybody over at Oni too. So thanks, Henry. It was great. I appreciate you letting me know about this stuff, and happy to talk about it. And I hope again this is the start of more great things from Henry Barajas in the near and distant future.
I wouldn't be in this industry if it weren't for Word Balloon. So thank you, John. It's always
Jesus. That's Henry. That's incredibly kind. Thank you.
It's always an honor to be on the show.
Whatever I did to help, that's great, man. I won't claim that Helm Castle is my project. Don't worry.
If you did, I wouldn't mind because I worked at Citibank, listened to Kelly Sue DeConnick talk about working at Citibank, and I was like, oh, I can do this. And I that was my college. I didn't go to college. I listened to Word Balloon. And learned on all the things not to do from everyone.
High praise, Henry. I appreciate that. And she's like my little sister. I always tell her to make her blush, but I mean that. She and Matt are like my little brother and sister.
Oh, really that's beautiful.
So absolutely. Well, thanks, man. This was great. Now we're gonna do another Word Balloon on Wednesday, and it's John. And forgive me, John. I'm gonna mispronounce your name probably. Tsui. He's got a great image book coming up. Great Asian creator, writer, and looking forward to talking to him about his great book on Wednesday. We're gonna push back our Kinescope show to next Sunday because Gabe is going to be too busy to do it on Thursday, and we're going to be talking about the first television sci-fi hero, the great Captain Video.
Oh wow!
And if you're a Honeymooners fan, then you know about Captain Video, but 1949 television, Henry.
I will definitely tune into.
It's going to be 9:30 Pacific, so yeah, it's not too late in the evening for you to join us if you're interested to watch. But we're going to do that on Sunday night. And beyond that, it's going to be another great week for Word Balloon. So I hope everybody tunes in. And we got big plans for September. So until then, I thank everybody for watching tonight. Stay safe.